Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to, according to one viewer, was the worst channel, or worst modding channel, or modding? No, what was it? What did he say? The worst modeling channel on the internet. Yeah, one guy put a comment in there on one of my videos. Well, so be it, so I'm the worst. That's an accomplishment in itself. But then I got a couple of other comments from guys saying I'm definitely not the worst. So thanks guys, that is awesome. You guys are awesome. What are we doing today? Today we're still continuing the build of Tamiya's F-4J Phantom 2. This is the 1/32 scale. I know I need to apologize right off the bat. I put a comment in my last video that I would probably be continuing the build on Friday, and that was now 2 days ago. So I'm sorry I didn't quite get to it. I just got busy and I couldn't get to actually recording anything. In the meantime, another thing I did promise I would do was mention. I was asked what kind of putty I use to get rid of seam lines and gaps and things like that. And basically I have two different types that I use. If I've got humongous gaps that I need to fill, I will use the Tamiya putty. This one is the gray. It's great. I've used this one for years, and I don't really like it. But I still, if I've got a big gap to fill, I will use this one. But ever since I discovered the Vallejo plastic putty, ever since I discovered this one, this is the one I use. Basically because the Tamiya one, it comes out like that and you get a big blob of it out of the tube and it dries extremely fast. It's very thick. You don't get much time to sculpt it. Now I know there are guys out there that use different techniques to thin it out a little bit so that it doesn't dry quite so fast. I've never done it. I don't know. I try not to deal with models that give me huge gaps that I need to fill in the first place, and so I don't use this one much. This one, however, this was a lifesaver when I discovered this one just a few months ago. This one has a nice thin applicator tip, so it comes out in a very nice small little bead, and it's great for getting in corners and cracks and stuff. I actually did use it on this model just along the seam of the wing, right along here, just to fill in. And of course, if I was using the Tamiya, that sucks, right? So what would I do with the Tamiya? I'd put a blob out on a piece of plastic or something, or a piece of paper, and then I would get like maybe a toothpick and dip it in there and scoop it, and then try and just apply it kind of along the edge like that. And that's what I would do if I only had the Tamiya stuff. But because I have the Vallejo, I can get in that crack and just apply it straight from the tube all the way along that crack, and then just kind of go along with my finger and just kind of get rid of any excess. Another thing that's nice about this stuff, I haven't tried it with the Tamiya, so I don't know for sure. I can't say either way. The Vallejo is water soluble, so once you got it on there and it starts to dry, you can actually take like a cotton swab or something, like you get a Q-tip and dip it in water, and you can massage it and kind of sculpt it a little bit and get rid of excess stuff just with water. And that is fantastic. This stuff takes a little bit longer to dry. This stuff dries super fast. And that's about it. That's the two types of putty that I use. I don't really use anything else. And that's about it for my little putty explanation. So like I said, I try to avoid models that give me humongous gaps that I need to fill, and so I try and eliminate the need to use a lot of putty. So, what have I been up to for the last week? Well, as we're getting close to, we finished off the landing gear last week, the last one. So now we're moving on to the missiles, and in doing so, I realized I've got to do all the decals underneath this plane and do all the weathering, because this thing's got a lot of armaments. I've put a few of them together already. So that's this one. As you can see, you may notice that this camera here is a much wider angle view. I've changed the lens. I got a new lens on it now, and although the lens is a much nicer quality lens, I do have to kind of coerce it to focusing, but it does focus for me once it finally makes up its mind and does so, and I can get it to focus. Of course, there we go. See, now it's focusing in. So it does focus, and it's very nice, and I'm really happy with that lens. So anyway, so I've got my sidewinders assembled. I've got 3 bombs on their little pod, just like that. These are actually going to go underneath, just like that, when it's all said and done. And that'll be one pod. So I haven't done anything other than just assembling those. I got my, I don't know if it's a fuel tank or a drop tank. I got the center tank done. This is ready to go on now. Did a little bit of weathering, got the 3 clovers on there on each side. Did a little bit of weathering on the side of the tank. Let's see, there we go. Did a little bit of rust coming down on there. Figures, you know, it's an older plane, so it's going to have a lot of usage. And just a little bit of streaking on there for weathering effect. So I'll show you what I've got done on the bottom of the plane. And this is what we got. So I did a whole bunch of weathering. We got all the decals on there. I'm not happy. One criticism I have is the decals on this particular kit. Rather than giving me, say, like if you look at this section right here, okay, there's like a little cluster of decals there. Rather than giving me all of those separate, what they do is they give me a big sheet, and there's a great big clear section in between all of them. And that's kind of what they've done for a lot of this. We've got decals here, okay, right there. There's a little cluster of 4 of them. There's actually 5. There's one right there below my finger there. So these are all, that's one sheet. But you think it actually, off of the cardboard, this includes all of this area right here. That's all one decal. So there's a lot of clear there. And if I get that to shine properly in the light, you might be able to see the sheen that comes off of them. I guess the camera, my lighting is not really showing it. So I guess what do they call that? There's a term that all the modelers use to when the decals are really shiny and reflective, and I'm drawing a blank right now, I can't remember what it is. But when you look at it at a certain angle and as the light reflects off of it, you can totally see the whole decal, and you see that whole clear section in between the actual little warnings and everything, the little labels. And it looks stupid, honestly. These are all supposed to be like painted or whatever in real life and blah blah blah. It just looks dumb. It looks cheap. You can tell these are all just great big stickers put on there everywhere, and it really, I don't like the look. So what I do to try and eliminate that look when I get stuff like that happening is I hit it with a flat clear coat over top of it, and in particular I'll try and do that a little bit thicker where the decals are to get rid of that. Sometimes it might even take 2 or 3 coats to get rid of that shine that these decals produce. So other than that, I got all the decals on and I did all my weathering on there, and I'm kind of happy with it. I figured I used a lot of the Tamiya brown panel line accent color to do all the panel lining. I figured that might be a little bit better than just going with the gray, because I want to give it that kind of, yeah, maybe there's some rust going on in places, and because this is an aircraft carrier plane, hit with salt water constantly, all that stuff. It's an older plane. This thing's from the late 50s or whatever when they made these. I think they stopped production in 72 or something like that. So yeah, just I figure the quality of paints and corrosion protection back in those days was not as good as they are today, so there's going to be a little bit more tendency to rusting, and that's kind of my thinking, my logic behind it, and why I went with the brown instead of the gray. I still have some, I used some of the gray wash on there. I just used the neutral gray wash from AK and just did that, and that's kind of where I'm at. So I've got some missiles to assemble, and like I said last week, I also picked up some seat belts for the seats. Remember my whole thing about the pilots and how one of my pilots lost an arm, and so it's going to have a one-armed pilot. I didn't really want to do the pilots anyway in the first place, but I was kind of like, this thing's got no seat belts, I got to put the pilots in. Well, I wound up buying the Photo-etched seat belt kit, and I've got one seat done, and I'm not going to do it today. I will work on the seat. This thing took me a lot of time to get that seat belt. I'm going to see if I can get away with this. I'm going to try that. Put this in front so it's got nothing to focus on except this seat. And that seat now has a whole bunch of belts on it. And very realistic looking seat belts draped all over this thing now. And yeah, it's the most detailed seat I've ever built. At the same time, this was the first time I've ever done photo-etched. Photo-etched anything really, let alone seat belts. And these things took me a long time. It takes a lot of patience to put these on. And I was kind of trying to experiment on what glue to use. I watched a couple of YouTube videos, and I've seen guys saying they use AV glue. What the heck was it called now? It's basically White Elmer's wood glue, or school glue, right? You can use that. And I'm thinking, that stuff's made for wood. This is metal trying to adhere to plastic. How does that work? How does wood glue work? So in my mind, I can't wrap my mind around that. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother trying that. And I don't like using CA glue. I don't like using CA glue, whether it's Crazy Glue or Zap or whatever brand you want. I don't like using them. And I don't like it because it's so easy to just mess everything up with it. Because this is so intricate. You know, you're holding it down with a pair of tweezers, you've got a little dab of glue on your part, and unknown to you, that glue has dripped down onto your tweezer, and now the part is now glued to your tweezer. You put it on the thing, and you go to let go, and it just holds on to the whole thing. And you didn't even know that the glue had dripped down and had glued the thing to your tweezer. Or worse yet, you're holding it with your finger, and it has glued it to your finger. because CA glues anything to anything pretty much, right? So I don't like using CA glue. So I figured I'm going to try Tamiya's extra thin. Let's see how that does. And I found gluing the metal pieces to the plastic, this did an okay job. As long as you put it in position, you apply the glue, and you don't move it. As long as you don't move it in that first 5-10 seconds, and it doesn't move, and this stuff is allowed to set, it works pretty good. But then it comes to parts where you actually have to glue. There's a couple of parts on here that you actually have to glue, like this part here gets glued onto this part here, and you glue the two pieces together, and that becomes a problem. This stuff does not glue metal to metal. As much as I tried, as soon as you went to touch it or to see if the parts had stuck together, they just fall apart. So this will not glue the metal to the metal. Metal to the plastic, it did an okay job as long as it didn't touch it. So I figured I'd try. Let's try this stuff. This is Tamiya's just regular glue. It's a little bit thicker. And I tried the metal to metal with this stuff because it's a little thicker. This stuff doesn't work at all. Bottom line, it doesn't work at all. So, in the end, I went with the CA glue, but I went with the gap filling medium. So this stuff is a little bit thicker, and so it doesn't have such a tendency to just run everywhere. It kind of sits there a little bit better. And this is the one I went with, and this is the one that worked flawlessly. And even in a few spots where I had used this to glue it to the chair, I still put a little dab of the CA just to make sure it's all going to stay, because, well, I didn't really trust it, and that's really the bottom line. I didn't trust it so much. So that's that. So this seat is done. Now, my next video, I will work on the other seat, and you get to see the painstaking process of doing that. Now this thing, I worked on this thing probably like for an hour each night, probably for like 3 days. So this, just putting these seat belts on, took me like 3 hours. So, of course, a lot of that time was spent experimenting with the glue. And of course, these take longer to dry. I did see, there is a website, these guys make glue specifically for photo-etched parts. And I can't remember the name of them right now off the top of my head. I think I have, it's the same guys. They make this stuff. What is the brand? VMS is the company. They've got a website. This is just a white pigment powder for doing stuff. It's just a powder. It's a pigment. Anyway, they make glue specifically for photo-etched parts. So, and they make a thin. They make a thin, and they make a black version that takes just a little bit longer to dry. Now, in their thing, they say that it takes 150 times longer to dry than regular CA glue. So, but it works. It glues just like CA glue. So I'm thinking, okay, it's CA glue that takes 5 seconds to dry instead of instant, right? Or maybe it takes 10 seconds to dry instead of 1. That allows you to, get that part and actually, okay, so I've put it here. It's not exactly where I need it. I need to move it now, and I need to just go just that little more there, right there, right there. Perfect. And it gives you that time to actually manipulate it for a few seconds before the glue really grabs hold, right? That, to me, is perfect, and it's worth the $10 a bottle. So I actually ordered one of each, just because they say if you don't use it and it's in the bottle, it's good for 2 years. It'll sit and be fine for 2 years. To me, that's a good selling point, because I don't know, I might not have any need for that glue in a long time. I just realized I'm doing a lot of talking and I'm not really doing anything. So let's get to actually putting some stuff together here and actually get this done. So we've got our sparrows already done, and I've put the decals on them. I know one of you guys, the decal process is something you hate. I would much rather put decal stripes on missiles than try and paint those lines perfectly, because I don't paint perfect. Anyway, I got these all 4 done. Those are ready to go on the plane, and they can basically go on anytime. So then I just have them kind of sitting there. So let's go with, I've got 2 sidewinders here sitting in their little tray. And so that lid on, there we go. So these guys, they just go on here. They've got 2 little nubs sticking out that go in these 2 little slots, and it's just simply going to go there like that, just like that. This one, we're going to have 3 bombs going. So all I do is just put a little dab of glue there, a little dab there, line it up, and we're done. Aren't you glad you get to watch me do all these fails? It fell right underneath my desk. It's probably where the pilot's arm went. Okay. Let's try this again, now that the glue's all dried. This time I'll hold it like that, so it can actually sit where it's supposed to. And this time I'll wait a second or 2 before turning it, because that was my problem. Sorry if I'm sweating. It is very warm in my room today. I should probably be wearing shorts for how warm it is in here right now. Okay, you gonna stay this time? Alright, good. Let's do the other side. Assuming that's gonna stay. I'm hesitant now, I don't want it to fall off. I'm just going to set it like this while I put glue on this one. Oh, it just came off again. I don't know why it doesn't want to stay on there. just add a little bit more. And I'll give that a minute. Okay. So while we're waiting for that, we have bombs. We got bombs. And we have bombs that go on this guy. And those are the ones with the long noses on them. These guys. And they just sit. Get the little notch and line the notch up with the hole and you put them on. Doink, just like that. Now, of course, one thing I found, if you look at them, they should all line up nice and straight, right? And all be lined up nice, right? I found there wasn't much I could do if it wasn't quite, doesn't look quite perfect, you know? And their little trio pattern that they've got there. To get them lined up straight. The last thing I want is one bomb that kind of looks like it's cockeyed, you know, or like they're like this, but this one's like this. You know, it's just like nipples. You don't want them cockeyed. You want them straight, pointing in the same direction, right? Yeah, so the only way to make sure of that is when you're gluing these pieces on here, that you've got them lined up straight as you can. And that was the only way that you can do it, because once these are in place, there isn't really any adjustments you can make when you're actually mounting the bomb to it. It kind of fits into the slot and it sits there and it's nice and snug. And there's no play, there's no movement that you can do. So it's important to get them lined up in the first place. These are the same. I did not get them perfectly lined up. I can try and kind of almost force it in a way. I can't even say it's forcing it, but I want the bombs to be lined up pointing exactly in the same direction, and that's really hard to do. Okay, so while those are setting, I don't want to put the top one on because I got to press on the sides here to do it. So these can just get set down like this while I revisit my little Sidewinder missile here, who's being stubborn and doesn't want to go on, stay on his little perch. Some more of this. And I will let that sit again, just like that. Now I should be able to get back to this one. Put that third bomb on. And there we go. So we've got our 3 bombs on this guy too. And they're basically going to be going on last, because the first thing we need to do is we take this and we'll apply this to the wing, and once that's set, then you apply the bombs to the other side of this. So But we have more bombs to put on this guy. Now, these pods, they have spots for 6 bombs, and you've got 2 of them. I don't know where my other one is. There it is. So you got 2 of these guys, and they have provisions for 6 bombs each. So that's 12 bombs on these pods. The model only gives you 6 bombs. So if you really wanted to fill the armament, you can't. Now, I suppose you could alternatively put these guys up at the front of this and put these regular bombs at the back, right? And then not have these pods on the plane, or you could just have these pods on there but they're empty. It doesn't instruct you to do that. I would rather have 6 more of these and just fill this and just have tons of bombs, right? That's what I would prefer myself. I don't know why my camera is really having difficulty focusing. It's just focusing like crazy. Anyway, so the choice now is, do I put the 3 up front or do I put the 3 at the back? And I'm going to take a look at the instructions just to see where they want me to put them. They show putting them at the back or at the front. So I will put them at the front. That means they're going to go right there, and they're just going to go exact same profile as the other ones, just like that. Hey, don't need glue. I feel like I'm getting to a point in this build where I am seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. There's been so much painting detail to do on this thing, more so than I would normally. And in a sense, it's because this is a 1/32 scale, and I'm used to 1/48. So I'm not used to needing to do so much detail work, or even feeling almost a sense of obligation to put in the extra effort and the detail because of the bigger scale. I never would have thought to buy photo-etched seat belts for a 48 scale model. It's just a level of detail I don't bother getting into. I'm not a professional modeler, so that kind of detail for me is really unnecessary. My models just go on a shelf, and then I kind of walk by them, and I don't really scrutinize them anymore once they're assembled. And they just kind of get left like that. Damn it. Okay, that was dumb of me, but it's going to stick, so... One more to go. And there we go. So like I said, it would have been nice if they had included 6 more bombs to put on this part, but I suppose good enough. I know you can buy kits of weapons, right? A model kit that is just simply weapons, different missiles and things like that. And I've got a little box where I kind of collect spare parts, spare missiles and bombs and shit like that I've just collected from other models. But they're all 48 scale, so they wouldn't work on this kit anyway. Okay, so with those done, according to the instructions, we've got our missiles all assembled and ready to be put on. And on the next page, now they want us actually installing some of these things. So it is time to actually install some stuff. The bombs I'm just going to put here for now, because we don't do the bombs first. The bombs are on the next page. So I'm just going to put them aside for now, because what they want us putting on first are our sidewinders and our sparrows. So we grab this guy and let's find a way to put him on the desk here. So like I've said before, these guys, they simply just drop into place. You just kind of line them up and away you go, like that, just like that. And like the instructions said, they don't want you putting all 4 fins on the front for some reason. And then I wound up randomly leaving one off. But you have these little ridges that get put on these things, and I'm not sure what the purpose is of them. But it is a detail that I don't want to be randomized, because in real life they wouldn't randomly do that. So I'm going to put them like this, so that I've got that little ridge here and then the ridge here, and that's going to be on this side. And then on this side I'm going to have that ridge facing towards the outside also, like that, I think. Yeah, so like that. And then I'm going to do that for this one, same direction, and then this one also, just like that. So with them sitting like that, I don't really need to put a lot of glue on them just to get them to sit. It's not something that's really necessary to do. Now I could put a little bit of glue on their fin as I drop it in there, and then we'll hold them. It's kind of hard to determine exactly where the touching point is on that side of them. So let's see here. I just want to do a little experiment with a different missile. I don't know if it's actually a flaw in the mold or in where this fin actually tucks in behind this piece here, where this fin is sitting on top of it, so it won't go in. I could maybe notch it or something like that to get it to to fit in there. I don't really want to. I could trim a little notch off of that. I think that's what I'm going to do. I can find my knife. I'm just going to trim this just a little bit. Let's see if that fixes it. No, there's a lot more that needs to be trimmed if I'm going to do that. I can almost get it to go, but not quite. It's so close. I don't think it's a detail that I need to worry about too much. So, let's put some glue on. I could just cake the glue into the holes and then, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll just put a little bit on the fins. Go in those slots. And then if they touch, they touch, and if they don't, I'll worry about that a little bit later. Feeling some resistance. It doesn't want to pull up now, so that's a good sign. That means the glue is holding. It's holding in an invisible spot that I can't see, and that's fine with me. For some reason this one doesn't want to sit flush, so I'm going to hold it for a minute until the glue dries a little bit. And yeah. So how about them Canucks? Yeah, they're doing pretty shitty as usual. Here we go. Okay, last one. Now we're putting it in this way, right? Yes. No. Yes. Yes, that is correct. Okay, our sparrows are on, just like that. Now, with those on, we go with our sidewinders. Now, they have these little fins here and here, and they don't really show you definitively whether they go on the outside or the inside. As you can see, there's definitely a left and a right the way they go. So I just need to determine how that's going to go. So, and these go on the inside here. Okay, so it's going to determine, you see that angle there? This angle right there? That's going to line up with your landing gear hole right there. It's an angle. So if it's going to be going into your landing gear, then that's not going to work. So that's going to go on this side. So I'm just going to check my fitment here, and it seems to be good. just like that. So I will throw some, I want to do this side first. So I'm just going to check that this is going to fit. It's kind of a snug fit, but it fits. Looks pretty flush. I may have to squeeze it a little bit to get that front edge to really tighten up. I might have to add some glue to that front edge because I'm getting a little bit of a gap down in here, right in there. And I don't want to have that gap. I want that nice and tight. You can see it lift up as I let go. So I will. The back hole is snug. The back hole is a little tight. It's not suggestive at all. Okay, so I did put a little bit of glue in that spot. So let's see, if I just hold it for a minute or 5. Move it down so it's just a little comfortable, more comfortable to hold it. I don't want to use a clamp because I only have the one big clamp, and that thing really freaking clamps and just it distorts everything, and it's just too much. It's too powerful of a clamp. And then I've got these guys, and these are too small for this purpose. Let's see how we're doing. No, it's going to take a little more. So I'm going to open this one up. And get it in there. There. Still holding it. Not letting go. Got a bit of a gap at the back too that I didn't see until just now. Want to make sure it's going to sit and it's going to stay where it's supposed to. You see, normally I wouldn't care about this, but because this is a bigger model and everything is so much easier to see the flaws, that I want to try and eliminate that, right, as much as I can. All right. You know what they need to do? They need to come up with CA glue that comes with a little brush like that. And dries perfectly clear and doesn't go white. CA glue, sometimes it has a tendency to get white around the edge, and that looks like crap. I used to use CA glue a lot when I was younger. As a teenager, I'd use it because I'd get impatient holding things. You know, you'd never see me building a model as a teenager, just sitting here holding it for a few minutes and waiting. That was just beyond me. I had not enough patience back then. Yeah, big difference compared to today. And that seems to have done the trick. Now that I look at it, it did not. So I gotta hold it longer. It just wants to separate just that little bit, and it's got like a 1 millimeter gap. Now, if I didn't have the missiles on there already, I could just fill it with a little bit of putty and then not sit here holding it and holding it and holding it like this. But while I'm holding it and waiting, let's take a look at that. Of course, the amount of weapons that this plane holds really is kind of the staple of what makes this thing so special. It just wants to separate that whole section. It's making me mad now. I have to get my clamp out. Part of me thinks, okay, I'll just get some tape and use tape to hold it, but in doing so, it's gotta go around the missiles, and that would not be a beneficial thing, because it would just rip the missiles right off this pod, and that's no good. I don't want to rip the missiles off after spending the time putting them on. Too small. And this thing, this is my other clamp. So this thing is huge. Nice big 2-inch clamp, but it's frickin', it's strong. It'd be nice if I could get just a little weaker, because I don't need that much grip strength to hold it. My thumb is getting sore from holding it for so long, but it is what it is, and that's part of this building process. Sometimes you just need the patience to hold it. God damn it. I just painted the little red strip. Just painted this little red strip around the intake, and now I've already chipped a piece off of the red, so I have to redo that. Okay, we're gonna hold. Okay. That's it for that. So now we're going to do this one. This one's going in the same spot, just on the other wing, and it seems to be much more happy to sit where it's supposed to. So it's just something with that side. I'm not sure what it is. See, this one sits much nicer. So you got a decal that wants to fall off right there. Sometimes with these decals, if for some reason you leave them in the water too long, it gets rid of all the adhesive on the decal. And that's when this stuff comes in handy. This is Decal Adhesive by Tamiya. So if you've had decal sitting in the water and you accidentally left it a little too long and now the decal doesn't want to stick, you can use that stuff. Or if you're like me and you had a decal just want to fall off on you like this, you can fix it like that. Okay. Now the next thing is you got a choice. You have these tanks that would go on the edge of the wings here. Getting a little there. You're either going to do the tanks that go on the wings, or you're going to do the bombs. One or the other. The choice is yours, whatever you prefer to do. I like the look of the bombs, so I'm going to be doing the bombs. So I put these tanks together and I'm not using them. I'm going to do the bombs. But I am going to do the middle tank. And this middle one I will put on, and then I'm going to call it a day. The middle one just sits right here. If I get it to line up. Just like that. And that's how it's going to sit. Just like that. So I'll put some glue on there. Line this guy up as best as I can on the first try. Just like so. Just double check, make sure it's flush, yes and yes. It's not sitting cockeyed, nope. We are good to go. And there we go. So we are almost done. We've got our pods to put on the other sides. And then we're going to start working on the top half of this plane. Next time we are going to work on seat belts. Seat belts is going to be the topic of part. What part am I on now? I think this is part 5. No, this is part 6. I always lose track. I'm sorry. I lose track of what part this is. In the next part, I'm going to be doing the seat belts. So you get to see how much I'm going to struggle doing those. Fun times, right? You guys watching this on YouTube, you guys subscribe to me. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. You guys comment and give me encouragement and everything, and make me feel like I'm doing something that actually something that I'm helping people with. You're welcome, Yuala. Thank you. Thanks for the comment. So with that, if you guys want to follow me on Twitch, duplicitous_29, you can chat and talk to me just like Yuala did right there. Mega Boy, I guess you were just a lurker and don't want to talk. That's perfectly fine. If you want to see still photos of previous builds that I've done, you can go on my Instagram. Every time I finish a build, I take a bunch of pictures of it and I post it on my Instagram. So if you're interested and you want to take a look there, you can see stuff that I've done in the past. And with that, I'm going to say thank you guys for watching. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for following me and subscribing. You guys are really great. Just thank you all around. Thank you so much. And so with that, I'm going to call it a day. And yeah, we will see you all in the next one.